Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Form Check Friday. I hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody's comfortable. They found somewhere suitable to watch and to relax and to enjoy this episode. Getting right down to it, we're gonna get to our first video here, and this one comes from Matt. Now, Matt sent in a video of some deadlifts, and Matt said his biggest issue is trying to keep his back flat and that his hips are really high. So the biggest thing that I'm seeing right off the bat with Matt's deadlifts are just like he said, he's having trouble keeping his back flat and his hips are a little bit too high. So what I would try to do a little bit more, Matt, is I would try to sit your butt down and back. Make sure that weight stays on your heels. I think a lot of people, when they think about sitting the butt down, tend to do exactly that and just sit the butt down, the knees come forward, and we lose tension. What I want you to do is try to keep your shin angle the same and sit your butt down to sort of coil yourself like a spring, pack yourself into it, stay back on those heels, and pull yourself into some tension. Excuse me. I think once we adjust the hip height a little bit, I think that's going to help you keep your back flatter, because it looks like you can achieve a flat back. It's just when you start pulling, because your back's at almost a parallel angle to the floor, we're getting a lot of shear force through the back, whereas if we can get your back a little bit more upright, we're going to get a little bit more compressive force, which is going to help translate down into the glutes, the legs, etc. And that's going to go a long ways for you. Up next, we got a bench video from David Rush.
Feeling of coming in the
that
gym,
is not a bench video. That's definitely not a bench video. There's David's bench. Anyways, David said he's having trouble keeping his butt on the bench, and you'll notice when he presses, he's super toe-picked back. His feet are pulled back really far, and that's something that people will often offer as a way to help you keep your butt on the bench, is just bring your feet further back. It looks like that might not be the cure for David here. So David, what I would want you to do is I'd want you to try, anyways, I want you to try and practice the way that I generally coach the bench, and that's with more constant tension as opposed to getting that really acute push or drive as you push the bar off your chest. So what I want you to do is I want you to turn your quads on, turn your glutes on, dig those heels down, and use that tension throughout the whole lift so there isn't that jolt as you initiate the bench press. Now, this should help to keep you nice and tight throughout the whole lift, but it should also keep you from doing that exact movement that's driving your butt up off the bench. So let's try that and see how that goes. We also have Tom from the UK. Tom's doing some deadlifts here, and honestly, overall, Tom's deadlifts look pretty good. The only thing I'm seeing, Tom, is right as you get to lockout, as you push your hips through, you're unlocking your knees. So that's something we really want to watch out for. We want to engage the quads. We want to lock the knees as you lock out, and as you extend your hips, make sure you're not then unlocking the knees. A lot of times, if you lean back more than you extend your hips, if you lean back more than you extend your hips, what will happen is exactly that. We'll unlock the knees as you go through the lockout. So what I want you to do is I want you to be really conscious of squeezing your quads through the lockout and pushing down as opposed to just pulling back. That should help. Next, we have a video from Frederick. Frederick's doing some squats. So Frederick, I think that your squat mechanics are really good. I think that you're doing a lot of things right. But one of the things that I'm seeing is I think you're going a little bit too deep, and yes, there is such a thing as too deep. I also think that you're losing a little bit of tightness. Now, these two things usually go hand in hand. When you go that extra little bit too deep, what will happen oftentimes is we'll lose a little bit of positioning. So what I want you to do is I want you to cut those just below parallel, so we're still undeniably getting to competition depth. But I want you to maintain a little bit more tension in the legs, in the trunk, in the upper back, as opposed to bottoming right out. Because as you can see, as we get towards the end of the set here, when you bottom out, you're having to kind of really refine your position or find your position over again, which is causing you to shift a little bit, and it's causing you a lapse in tightness and a lapse in power and velocity out of the bottom. So I want you to focus on being a little bit tighter as you come out of the hole, and I want you to focus on being or squatting a tiny bit little higher. Tiny little bit little higher. Little higher a little bit. Ryan. Now we got some deadlifts from Ryan. Ryan is pulling Sumo here. And Ryan's a really strong dude. This first set here is 500 for a set of 6, and his sumo pull actually looks really, really good. The only thing I'm seeing is in your starting position, it looks like you're trying to get a little bit too upright, and I'm talking like a matter of inches here. And when you get that upright, right as you start the pull, you'll see the hips kind of rock back and then the pull starts. So what I want you to do is I want you to try and start with that position of tension as opposed to trying to start too upright, because what's happening is you're rocking back into that position before you initiate the pull anyways. So let's try and start in that position so that we can be a little bit more consistent with your starting position. Denzil, 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 Denzil. I might. Next up, we have some squats and some deadlifts from a guy named Denzil. It's almost Denzil, which I think is cool, and his lifting crew here is one of the most hype dudes, or one of the most hype groups of dudes that I've ever heard on a Form Check Friday. They're all yelling and screaming at him. It's pretty cool to see how stoked everybody gets on his lifts here. Very similar kind of issue between the squat and the deadlift, and a lot of that has to do with trunk bracing. I think the stance might be a tiny bit wide on your squat here. And the other thing I think is that when you hit the bottom, everything's kind of collapsing in a little bit. We're losing the upper back. We're losing a lot of tightness in the trunk. So I want you to really think about, and one of the ways that I like to think about trunk bracing, specifically for the squat, is you think about how a piston works in a cylinder in a car. What we want is we want the ribs down, using the abs and the TA to sort of draw the rib cage flat down to the front of the body, and also using the lats on the back to do a similar function. So we're getting torque down on both sides, trying to compress into that abdominal pressure. So that's what I want you to think about, and I want you to especially try to maintain that right as you hit the bottom of your squat. Now with your deadlift here, Denzil, the biggest thing is we're just not setting tension into the bar. So you're going down, you're grabbing the bar, and then right here, a couple of pumps, and then just kind of jacks right into it. What I would like you to try to do is pull yourself down to position with your lats. So I want you to actively engage your upper back, pull your chest through as you sit, try to get a little bit of back extension, and we want to try to find that feeling where the bar's almost floating off the floor before you initiate the pull. With lighter weights, you should be able to actually make it float. And that's a really good sort of warm-up cue that you can use on your way up from the empty bar, is to pull in into so much tension that the bar is floating half an inch off the floor. That's what I mean by pulling the slack out of the bar, and I say that a lot on this series. So find that tension where the bar is almost floating. Make sure you're pulling yourself into position with your lats, and don't let that all kind of come out of place when you initiate the deadlift. Anyways, guys, that's it for Form Check Friday. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you guys next week. Tank tops are for sale. Shirts have been restocked. Go get them. And we will, like I said, see you next time, guys.
Just a quick heads up to anybody who's in Calgary or around Calgary. We, Calgary Barbell, and the gym, the Strength Edge, are going to be at the Calgary Stampede this weekend in the old Indian Village. Come check us out. We're going to have stuff for sale. We're going to be doing a deadlift competition Saturday. There's going to be strongman competition, and we're going to be lifting in our tent at the ground. So it's going to be awesome. Come step by, check us out. If you want to pick up some stuff, we'll have everything for sale there. I hope to see you there.